Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show. Coming from right here in our quaint little studio. This is the show, of course, that we talk about that stuff that we love so much. Movies and movie news, TV and streaming, all sorts of good stuff. Talking about in such a way so you get all the information. So when you're talking to your other friends about movies and TV, you sound like you know what you're talking about more than they do. That's what it's all about, isn't it? I am, of course, your host, John Campea. Good to have you guys here. I'm joined, of course, by our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
Giving you that daily street cred.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer-Burnett.
I have no cred.
And most importantly, of course, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show a part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, that's where we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, or question you'd like us to address, and if you're watching live, because you got to be watching live, go ahead and use the super chat feature in the live chat and send it on in. Get them on in as soon as you can, because at some point I'm going to have to turn them off when we get too many. And listen, before we get going, Emma Frost.
Yeah, it was 50. I had it up a second ago.
Just sent in 50 memberships. 50! That's a 50 burger. Woo!
What's a 50 burger?
When you get 50 on something. That's what they say in football. When,
they do?
When one team puts up 50 points, they say they got a 50 burger on that. They just put in a 50 burger.
There's that line in Close Encounters, you look like a 50-50 bar, when Roy Neary's face.
Oh, yes. Man, you know what? I haven't seen Close. That trailer for Disclosure Day made me want to go back and watch Close Encounters.
Yeah,
I haven't watched that.
Would you like to borrow my 4K?
No,
wait.
I don't have anything that can play a 4K thing anyway.
Okay, just saying.
Anyway, guys, so glad that you're here. Let's not waste any time, shall we? Let's get things started here. We're going to start off with this. You know, we haven't had an English film from one of the self-professed three amigos, Academy Award-winning director Alejandro Iñárritu, since The Revenant. He also did Birdman and obviously a whole ton of other stuff. Well, we knew for a while now that he's teamed up with Tom Cruise, and they're going to be making a film together. And one of the first films under Tom Cruise's new deal with Warner Brothers. That was a big win for DeLuca and Abdi and Zaslav and the whole crew over there landing that. And the movie's going to be called Digger, and we just got our first trailer for it. This is the description of it as put out by the folks at Warner Brothers, or over at Variety, saying Cruise stars as Digger Rockwell. While an exact plot is still under wraps, Warner Brothers provided an enigmatic logline describing Cruise's character as, quote unquote, the most powerful man in the world who embarks on a frantic mission to prove that he is humanity's savior before the disaster that he's unleashed destroys everything. The ensemble also includes Sandra Hüller, John Goodman, Michael Stuhlbarg, and Jesse Plemons, and others along the way. So this little teaser kind of dropped out of nowhere. And did we get a release date on that, Jonathan?
October of 26.
So it's coming out in October, so it's not all that far away. But it's kind of wild. I mean, it's weird. First of all, I would, if you didn't tell me first that it's Tom Cruise and Iñárritu, I would have thought that this was a modern version of Snow White and this was one of the dwarves. I was seriously, all I was expecting as Tom Cruise is walking around with the shovel, I was half expecting to hear hi ho. And I was kind of expecting that, but it wasn't. It's a wild looking little teaser that says and gives away absolutely nothing. But I mean, Iñárritu, Tom Cruise.
I'm in.
Sign me up. I thought it looked really, you know what? These first little initial teasers are just meant to, again, they're just meant to tease you.
And the Saul Bass
you.
Poster. So cool.
And you can count me as enticed and count me as teased. I liked what I saw. Again, it's totally, obscure, but whatever. It looks great to me. Anyway, Rob, you saw this thing for Digger. You heard the little explanation for it. What are you thinking about it?
You know what excites me the most? I've liked Tom Cruise since, I took notice of him in, well, really, it was, I have to say, yes, he was in Taps. And
I was going to say Taps. Yeah.
He was in Outsiders, but Risky Business in '83.
Yeah, I think most people would say that's their starting point.
Yeah, I just loved him, and I love seeing him in character roles, whether he was playing Ron Kovic in Born on the 4th of July, I loved him in Jerry Maguire. Jerry Maguire, I think, is it's such a great movie. A Few Good Men. I like his character roles. And to be honest, I've missed him playing characters. Vanilla Sky. Mission Impossible's great. But Ethan Hunt is a fantasy character. And he's great as Ethan Hunt. But I really like him as a normal person. And he's playing a role that isn't Ethan Hunt. And I'm excited to see, I want to see Tom Cruise really venture into his 60s and give us those meaty roles that show what a great actor he really is. I mean, look, that guy went up against Dustin Hoffman and held his own in Rain Man in 88.
Yeah. And that is no small feat.
No.
You know what my favorite performance of his is? And I'm freezing on the name of the movie, but you know it immediately. It's the one he did with Jamie Foxx.
Oh, Collateral.
I think that might be my favorite performance of his.
He's so good, and he played the villain.
Yeah,
he's
and he
so
played the
good in
bad
that
guy.
movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I love him as an actor, and he's chameleon-like, and I get it. He had his fun. He got his yayas out. But, dude, I want to see that Les Grossman movie. I want to see this movie Digger. I hope he makes, look, if there's one sequel somebody should make with all these legacy sequels, if they can make Beverly Hills Cop AF, I want Riskier Business. He's
Like,
now,
what has he been up to all these years?
well, he's a future enterpriser, but now his kids, what are his kids doing? And I think
it's your kids.
I
It's your
mean,
kids,
I
Marty.
think it could be incredible. And I would just love to see, I don't know if someone would have to write a great script, but I love Tom Cruise. And I don't even know he's a messiah that's also going to destroy the world. Count me in. Count me in.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in this trailer, but count me as intrigued. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Just out of nowhere, they dropped this teaser for Academy Award multi-winning director Iñárritu with Tom Cruise over at Warner Brothers. Digger is now out. What did you think about it? What are you anticipating from it? What did you think about the little description that's still kind of obscure? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.
All right, guys.
Got to sidetrack us for a second.
Uh-oh.
So I got a notification on my phone. This kind of gets into the realm of movies and arts a little bit here. And something that should not surprise any of us. The most narcissistic piece of shit who's ever sat in the White House.
Oh, no.
Remember how he gutted the governor's board of the Kennedy Center?
Oh, yeah.
This just came in from the New York Times. Kennedy Center board, all put in place by Trump, are now renaming the Kennedy Center to the Trump Kennedy Center. Has there ever been a more narcissistic,
Wow.
self-absorbed, everything is about himself, piece of human filth garbage to sit in the White House? The fucktard is actually going to rename the place of the arts after himself.
This is a man.
What a living piece of shit.
What arts does he even like? He's the man who went after Rob Reiner, but didn't mention anything that Rob Reiner had actually made. Wow, that's
Anyway,
really.
So this place where the arts were to be celebrated, then look, it goes without saying, if you are a Donald Trump supporter, my show is not going to be a comfortable place for you. Just saying. It just is what it is.
First of all, that's what he's concentrating on? With everything that's going on right now, with
I think he
healthcare
just
about
has-
to skyrocket?
I think he has a team of people that are just like, how do we troll people all the time?
Yeah.
And they come up with these ideas. And he's like, okay.
That's really, really disconcerting.
Again, they are going to rename the Kennedy Center for the Arts, which he has gutted and defiled, and they're going to rename it and put his name on it.
They're putting his name before a man who actually did get assassinated.
At least for
Well,
at least
let's
for
not go
3
there.
years,
That's-
his name will be on there.
Yeah.
Just
It's so, it's one of my favorite things, John. I don't know if you've ever watched it. Have you ever watched the Kennedy Center Honors with Led Zeppelin?
I did. Yes.
When Hart
Did
sings
Stairway to Heaven.
Heaven?
That was one of the most breathtaking things.
If ever I'm having a bad day, I think I've watched that video 100 times. Because first of all, I'm from Seattle. I love Hart. I've always loved Hart since I was a little kid. Dog and Butterfly, Crazy on You, Magic Man, Barracuda. If you want to watch something, watch those Midnight Special videos when they play them live. But the Kennedy Center Honors is the place where legends go. And what's interesting is Barack Obama is at that, and to see the look on his face when Heart starts banging out Stairway to Heaven, and you're watching a president that's in awe of them. You're never going to see that from President Trump.
Anyway, so again, Kennedy Center of the Arts, one of the highest places you can aspire to if you're an artist. Anyway, let's move on from that, shall we?
Wow.
Let's get on to the second story of our show here today. And that is this. You know, it's no surprise. And one of the big topics of conversation that often comes around here is the fact that, you know, the box office has struggled since the pandemic. I mean, we went from record-breaking year after record-breaking year after record-breaking year to the pandemic shutting movie theaters down and no films being in production and all that kind of stuff. And then not long after that, the industry got crippled again by the double strikes. We had the actor strike, we had the writer strike, everything shut down again, all kinds of stuff. And really, the box office has never recovered. We talk often today about the studies that were done through the trades, that they're estimating like 15 to 20% less people are going to the movies right now than prior to the pandemic. But there have been some signs of life. For instance, as many box office disappointments as there were this year, it has gone up, in years, since the pandemic, nothing significant. But there's a new study that just came out. This is in Variety. The Odyssey, Avengers, Spider-Man, and more are to drive the global box office to $35 billion in 2026, which would mark the highest score since the pandemic. It would be the biggest box office year since the pandemic if this does indeed go ahead. It goes on to write this. Once again, this is in Variety. Gower Street Analytics has projected that the global box office will reach $35 billion in 2026, marking a second consecutive year of growth with a 5% increase over the current estimates for 2025. The forecast would make 2026 the highest grossing year worldwide since 2019's $42.3 billion. We forget how big those box offices were pre-pandemic. Hall, surpassing 2023's $33.9 billion, according to the theatrical analytics firm Annual Year Ahead Projections. So, we've been talking for a while about when we look at the film slate of 2026, there's a lot of big bangers on the way.
Yeah.
And so we've been kind of anticipating this would actually be probably the biggest year yet. But now this analytics firm has come in and said, yeah, this is expected to hit the $35 billion mark, which puts it within about $7 billion of the pre-pandemic era, which again, it's good. It's momentum going in the right direction. Would we like to see recovery a lot faster than this? Yes, absolutely. And here's the other concerning part of this though, Rob, because I know you look at this, $35 billion estimated for next year, highest since the pandemic, a continued upswing. That's all good news, right? Here's the concerning part for me though, and why I don't think it's all roses and strawberries, is we are going to get multiple more huge blockbusters next year than say we had this year. And yet the increase is only projected to be about 5%. Don't get me wrong. I understand, John, in this type of field, 5% is actually a significant number. I know that it is. I'm just saying that when we're talking about a year that is going to have the Odyssey, Spider-Man, Avengers, and like 6 or 7 other huge high profile ones that, we ran down a list of 8 films that have the potential to be $1 billion films next year, that the overall growth rate is still only pegged at 5%. What that tells me is that while these bigger movies may be pulling in much more cash than say the bigger movies of 2025, it also suggests that those middle of the road movies and maybe smaller ones aren't projected to make as much as those level of films did in 2025. Otherwise, maybe we'd see a 7, 8, 9, 10% increase. Maybe not. I might be over worrying about this. I might just be, kind of looking for the dark spot on the white wedding cake. But again, still, it shows the industry heading back in the right direction. They are expecting some big things from next year. I'm hoping we can close out this year strong. Anyway, Rob, you heard this report. Does it surprise you? Or does it make you enthusiastic? Does it give you hope? Are you still pessimistic? I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, I mean, I know for me personally, I always use myself as a judge in terms of my excitement for next year's slate of films. There's more films, I'm talking Hollywood studio movies, beginning with Project Hail Mary in March. There's so many things that I'm excited about next year. I mean, look, how can you not be excited for Christopher Nolan making a historical epic based on Homer's The Odyssey? I'm like, sign me up. I've got myself into such a lather over Avengers Endgame already, and the two Avengers, Avengers Doomsday and Endgame. And then we've got a Star Wars movie coming out. There's so much stuff coming out that I'm excited for. And it's not that, look, am I really excited for Mandalorian and Grogu as one thing? Maybe not. But you know what? Collectively, I think about the entire slate of everything we're getting. Top shelf superhero movies, Star Wars.
Yeah.
We're getting an original science fiction film based on Andy Weir's novel, and I think The Martian's one of the great sci-fi films of the 21st century. Can't wait for that. There's comedies. There's all kinds of things. It's an embarrassment of riches, and I'm going to go see them all in the movie theater because Warner Brothers movies are going to still be in the movie theaters. I know they don't take over for a year, but whatever. I'm excited, John, and it makes me happy for the industry as a whole because people want to go to the movies. And they want to see great entertainment. And, I think, look at what Warner Brothers has done just last year. The one studio gave us so many diverse, when I say diverse, I mean diverse storytelling. And that's what, to me,
genres and themes.
Yeah, and stories. I mean, look, I got to tell you, it's so funny when I listen to people say, well, Sinners isn't that great. It's just From Dusk Till Dawn. I'm like, no. I put Sinners on just to marvel at the cinematography. That you put that movie on and you're drenched in a world and a time that I've never been in. The vampires are cool, but I like the beginning of that movie, just watching them drive around that town in, Mississippi.
It was like two separate amazing movies in one. That's why Sinners right now for me is still my number one film of the year.
I just keep watching it. And the fact that Warner Brothers allowed it to get made, good on them. And it's the kind of thing where I like that it's this genre pastiche. But the fact that major studios can make Final Destination, Weapons, Sinners, and do all these things, and they're taking chances. It's great. I think it's a really great. And look, for all those A24 heads, there's stuff coming from them that's weird and cool, and there's so many interesting things happening. There's a movie I'm dying to see that I haven't seen called The Plague that's set at like a boys. It's up for nominations for Spirit Awards and stuff. Roy Lee produced it, and I'm dying to see that. And that just seems interesting. I haven't seen it. It's out, but I haven't seen it. But there's so much good stuff coming. And I'm excited, dude. I'm excited more than I have been in a long time.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? The Variety is publishing a report here saying that they are now projecting that next year's box office will come in around the $35 billion mark, which would note another increase in returns and the biggest increase and the biggest number we've had since the pandemic. I'd still like to see numbers going higher than that at this point, and it makes me a little bit concerned considering the number of big blockbusters we're expecting that maybe the results should be a little bit better, but still good news is good news, I guess. I don't know. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, you can't talk about the films of 2026 without mentioning what is one of clearly the most anticipated ones amongst film fans, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. And, a bunch of pictures have been released recently, as well as today, a new poster for it has been released. The Odyssey poster offers a new look at Christopher Nolan's movie. I don't know if you have it, Jonathan, because, there it is. Now you can see it, the whole thing there.
Right.
You know what I love about this poster so much? What I love about this poster is not just the fact that it's not 7 floating heads, which is frankly what we get in feels like 60% of posters these days. It's an image that just conveys a tone.
Yeah.
That's what I love. It just conveys a tone. Now, I have no doubt that this is not the final poster. This is not going to be the official final poster of the Odyssey. I have little doubt about that. That notwithstanding that, I still think this looks great. I love that it kind of communicates that feel, that tone that I'm super excited about. And by the way, this comes on the heels of Entertainment Weekly putting out a number of other pictures from it. And by the way, Matt Damon, if you ever thought he looked good as Bourne, this Matt Damon would eat that Matt Damon for lunch because he's looking big, like really big and ripped. Anyway, so here's some of these pictures that it was in there. There's our first picture of Anne Hathaway with her son, Tom Holland, in the picture there. By the way, you could already just tell, Rob, from the pictures, the cinematography in this movie is going to be next level.
Oh, yeah.
You can just already tell. Here's our first image, a look at Rob Pattinson. I love the costuming, as a matter of fact. Them shooting a scene with a whole bunch of extras holding that IMAX camera. I think that's great. But this is the one. I'm sorry. Look at the size of Matt Damon's arms. That Matt Damon has never been this big. I mean, he's been big, but he's like Ben Affleck. Out of the two of them, has always been the physically bigger guy. This is bigger than Ben's ever been. I mean, he beefed up for this.
Yeah.
And he looks great. Now, by the way, it's also now being reported that one of the other things, aside from the Avengers Doomsday trailer that's going to be playing in front of Avatar, they're saying that 5-6 minute Odyssey prelude is going to be playing before it as well. Now, I have not seen it yet. I've not seen this 5-6 minute thing. I couldn't find it anywhere online, so I haven't witnessed it myself yet. Everybody who has seen it tells me it's amazing. So I'm hoping I'm going to get to see it tonight when I go to see Avatar. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to see this poster, these pictures. What do you think about them?
Dude, I'm in. I mean, come on, a spine on your
the spinal cord there
thing off your armor. I mean, come on, this is I'm in. But I wish this was a painting. You know, I mean, that's all. I love painted posters, but this image is so cool, and like you said, it conveys a tone. And these pictures get me excited. You know, Ellen Mirojnick is the costume designer. She's one of my favorite people. I've interviewed her multiple times for Designing Hollywood,
which is you can find on our channel.
Yeah, and you can see her on, and she did Oppenheimer, and she did this. She also did Basic Instinct. Yes, she did. Yeah, that white dress. So, kudos to her. Shout out to you, Ellen. And she has the coolest last name, Mirojnick. What a great last name. But I can't wait, dude. Who can't? I'm excited, man. I mean, like I said, why am I excited for 2026? Who doesn't want to see this? Like, I mean,
I'll tell you what, man. Going into each year, I usually have there's always a number of films I'm looking forward to, right? Always a number of them. But I usually have like one definitive one, like, oh yeah, but that's the one I'm most excited about. I'm starting to struggle with that a little bit going into 2026 because we've got the Odyssey, which I'm getting more and more excited about. We obviously have one of the most important films ever in Avengers Doomsday, important to the studio at any rate. Obviously, I've loved the Spider-Man movies so far, so I'm looking forward to that. You've got Project Hail Mary.
Dude, that's my most eagerly awaited movie of the year.
I mean, we've got that. We've got, a number of other films coming too. There are so many films coming out, but this one, man, I'll tell you what, if you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have had the Odyssey in my top 6 or 7 most anticipated of 2026. It's easily in my top 3 now, maybe my top 2. And I don't know, maybe after I see, if they do show us this prelude tonight, this Trojan horse prelude thing, if they do show it tonight, I might come out of that theater with it being my number 1 most anticipated movie next year. I am getting that excited about it because it's looking really good. These images look fantastic and I can't wait.
I got to go down. I got to get my ass to the Irvine Spectrum because I do want to go see Avatar again.
Well, I'm seeing it at 4:00 today. So
are you seeing it in IMAX?
No, I'm seeing it in, or am I seeing it IMAX?
or Dolby? I'm seeing it at
you know
Dolby
what?
tomorrow.
Are they only showing the prelude on IMAX screens?
I think so.
Oh, in that case, I'm still not going to see it.
I might
But
get
that
it.
might
not
not
gonna
be
see
true. They might be showing it on just every Avatar. Well, Avatar's
That's
Disney.
not
so
Christopher Nolan's
yeah,
MO.
yeah.
He only shows his stuff on IMAX.
But you know what? I have A-list, so I can go get an IMAX ticket too, and then just bounce.
I might have to do that.
You
Anyway,
gotta go
guys,
see it, Avatar, dude.
No, I'm
question
seeing
is
it.
for you.
I am seeing it.
What
Oh.
do you think about this? We got the new poster for the Odyssey. We got some first images coming out as well. Everything's looking great. This movie is, I mean, I don't know why I wasn't like extremely excited just from a new Christopher Nolan movie anyway, but I'm getting there. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're going to play ourselves a little game of overreaction. We went on to the channel a little bit earlier today, and we asked you guys if you had any hot takes for Rob and I to adjudicate and tell you if you're overreacting or not. We got a whole bunch of them in. Jonathan's got a few gathered up. So, Jonathan, what do we got up first?
All right, Rob, is this an overreaction when we hear from Nolan Katz? The first time the Oscars are on YouTube, it will immediately break the Oscars all-time viewership record.
I don't think that's an overreaction at all. I think that they're gonna the hype is gonna be insane, and not only that, what's the viewership gonna look like when you can watch them? Are they gonna only be live, or are they gonna be kept on YouTube after it streams?
Oh, everything stays on YouTube after it
I
streams.
mean, so I would say absolutely it's gonna be the widest watched broadcast ever, but because of that reason, it might not be the biggest live broadcast ever because people will catch up with it when it's done.
I don't think so. I mean, let me rephrase that. Yes, there are definitely going to be people who can't watch it live that will then watch it later. But anybody who is interested in the Oscars and can catch it live are going to watch it live.
Oh yeah, just so you know,
want to see it when they say, and the winner is.
Yeah.
So
it's absolutely not an overreaction though. I mean, I want to make that clear.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This is not an overreaction. This is a home run. This is automatic.
Yeah.
When this thing goes onto YouTube, again, remember, it does not happen for a couple more years. I think 2029 is going to be the first year that it streams on YouTube instead of on ABC.
Yeah.
It will break all the records. It will absolutely break all the viewership records, 100%. And then the first 24-hour numbers are going to be even bigger because people who can't watch it live will then go back and watch it the next morning because it's still going to be up there. So, yeah, 100%, not an overreaction.
I just hope it looks as good as it does on ABC because there's a big difference on when you're sending out to broadcast as opposed to like, oh, it's just on YouTube. Not only their camera team and their technical director and all that, like I know personally a guy who does the Academy Awards, the Emmys, you name it. He works in the color department, so he has every camera set up with the color. Like, and are they gonna get that deep with it, or are the shots gonna look like crap and dull? That's what I hope
and remember it's 2029, so you're gonna have 3.5 more years of development.
I'm just saying, I hope they have that team in place. You know,
I think they will.
By the way, just to address something here too, like somebody in the live chat said, the viewership for the Oscars has been in decline for years. No, it hasn't. It was for a while, but the last 2 years in a row, the numbers have been going up for the Oscars. But it's irrelevant. Once it hits YouTube, it's going to break all the records.
It's a new market. Yeah, for sure.
All right, what's next?
All right, John. Is this an overreaction when we hear from Philip? The Netflix WB merger will save Hollywood.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to say this is an overreaction. It's an overreaction. However, I want to acknowledge that there are possibilities here that could be very disastrous, which is what everybody's talking about. But there are some possibilities here that could actually work out really good. Again, this is all potential. You know, Netflix buying Warner Brothers does a couple of things. Number one, it infuses a big financial backing to everything Warner Brothers does. They suddenly have a lot more finances to work with, a lot more stability, all that kind of stuff. The ability, if they stay true to the commitment they've had, that they said they want to keep running Netflix and Warner Brothers independently, you're going to see a lot of product, going to see a lot of stuff. But here's the point where I think it could be very good for the industry. Rob, I have been saying for a number of years, one of the things the Hollywood movie machine needs to master and get down and commit to is the life cycle of a film. It used to be in previous eras. The life cycle of a film was it plays in theaters, then it's away for a while, and then it gets released on VHS, or then it got released on DVD, or then it got released on Blu-ray. Then it had PVOD at home. You know, it had its first life, then it had its second life. Since the pandemic, that life cycle has been really misaligned. It suddenly became either or. Is a movie theatrical or is it a streaming one? And then some people would put movies in theaters and then it would be on streaming in 7 days. You know, it really got out of line and we've been seeing the entirety of the movie industry suffer for it. One of the good things that could come out of this, this merger is really getting down to a science, that life cycle again. That Warner Brothers puts out these movies. They have their, Netflix says they're going to keep their traditional theatrical windows and then feed them many of them right into Netflix, where they get their second life. And then Netflix experiences bigger streaming numbers because they were theatrical films first. And I think there's a potential here that if Hollywood can rediscover that life cycle of a movie that exists between theatrical and then to streaming, that would benefit both of them. Well, then we can see studios like Paramount doubling down on it, studios like Disney doubling down on it. Again, I think to say Netflix merging with Warner Brothers will save Hollywood is an overreaction. But I just wanted to at least acknowledge, I think there are some exciting potential things that could come out of it that could be very good, or it could be a disaster. Anyway, Rob, he's saying that this merger, Netflix buying Warner Bros., is going to save Hollywood. Overreaction or not?
I think it's an overreaction. But like you just pointed out, what I like about it, if Ted Sarandos isn't full of, shit, and if he really does want to do what he says he is going to do, what I think it does is shore up the fact that Warner Brothers specifically has made a mandate to partner up with filmmakers. So they're thinking in terms of creativity. And one of the things that has worried me about the whole industry is I don't like analytics-driven filmmaking, where people are like, well, we can only make these movies because our analytics tell us. That is the death of creativity right there. You're getting out in front of, would Sinners have been made if they just looked at analytics? Analytics tell us no one's going to go see this movie. I don't want that to happen. But if you have a studio that's owned by Netflix, that their heads of that studio, Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca, are committed to relationships with filmmakers, that means we're going to continue to get, hopefully, original properties made by great people. Like, look, One Battle After Another might not have made a ton of money. Made some money. It's not a failure. But I'd rather live in a world where that movie exists than a world that it doesn't. And if that movie does in fact win Best Picture, even though it might not have become a huge box office success, it's a prestige thing that the studio was happy they made. Because, and I'm sure Warner Brothers, Netflix will be happy it was made as well. And that means that people like Paul Thomas Anderson are going to continue to make films. Because look, you might not love all of his movies, but I loved Phantom Thread. And it was not the kind of movie that a lot of people would make. I think he made the best movie with Homeboy. Why am I drawing a blank on Adam Sandler?
Oh yeah,
Punch Drunk Love.
Right. Yeah.
I want to see those filmmakers continue to. That's what movies are about. And I do think that Netflix secures Warner Brothers' ability to keep doing that, because the stress. When Warner Brothers was all by itself, the stress of making movies and making huge box office is huge. But having Netflix, it might alleviate some of that pressure because they know everything's going on to streaming. And the Warner Brothers, kept independently, will be feeding in to Netflix, but Netflix also doesn't have to spend that money to make movies. So it's better for Netflix and it's better for Warner Brothers. It alleviates the pressure on both ends. So I do think it kind of does help Hollywood in general.
All right. What's next?
Okay, John, we're going back to you now. Is this an overreaction someone was just making fun of your Homeboy comment, distracted me. When we hear from Nishant, who says Kevin Feige leaves Marvel after Secret Wars to finish on a high note.
By the way, I think we skipped one, but let me do this one. Yes. Listen, I don't think that's an overreaction at all, because I've been saying for a number of years that I believe Kevin Feige has his exit strategy mapped out. He's hit a point where there is literally nothing left for this guy to do. There's nothing left to do. You've gone ahead and created and produced the highest grossing film franchise in the history of the medium. You've literally had a film nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. You've done it all. You created the film franchise that de facto has kind of owned pop culture for the past 15 years. There's literally nothing left to do. And when you are a creative like Kevin Feige, you got to be looking for the next challenge. And so Secret Wars, I think, is a logical exit point for him. I really do. I think it's a logical exit point for him. I think he'll use the couple of years that we have to really build up and get his successor ready to go in place. And then he'll go on and take over Star Wars or take over, I don't know, Lionsgate or take
Star
over
Trek
or take over. Well, I don't see him doing that, but take over a full studio rather than just a division studio sort of thing. So yes, I don't think it's an overreaction at all to think that Secret Wars will be his last film that he does with Marvel. But no guarantees, but I don't think that's an overreaction. Rob, what do you think?
Totally agree. And not only that, he'll probably leave Marvel with a roadmap for the next phase, whatever the phase is after Secret Wars, because Marvel's clearly planning what that is, whether it's X-Men or whatever they're going to do. They know because they're already developing that stuff and they're going to have it out there. But like you said, unless Kevin Feige just likes doing it, I'm sure he does. Bringing Marvel back out on a high note, he might just want to stay and get into the X-Men. But the thing is, he already was involved with the original X-Men movies back at Fox. So it's like, I'll be a consultant, but I'm going to I wouldn't be surprised if somebody I could see Paramount poaching him and making him the head of production, the head of the studio.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
And then you're going to get to make, because then he would get to make Star Trek.
Well, in a way he would. Yes, he would.
You'd get to greenlight it.
Yeah, the only reason I don't really think he'll just take over Lucasfilm is because for him that would just be a lateral move.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it's a lateral. Listen, again, I've made this sports analogy before. When you're a coach that brings championships to a city, you become legendary. But when you go to another city and another team and bring championships there, now you're God tier. And if Kevin Feige could do for, say, Star Wars, he might be looking at it in terms of legacy, maybe. I did this with Marvel. I made it the biggest franchise in the history of cinema. And I saved Star Wars. I mean, listen, his place is solidified in the all-time Hollywood Hall of Fame anyway. I mean, it's already a lock. But if he could then go and do that in Star Wars, again, I don't think he will. It's a lateral move. But if he did, it's God tier at that point. Anyway.
Or he might leave and go do something totally different.
Yep, absolutely. He could do whatever he wants.
I mean, he's
hey,
done.
We need to keep going here. All right, what's next?
All right, Rob, we're going to go back to the third one here that I skipped. Is this an overreaction from JTT? Christopher Nolan will go down as the best director of all time when he retires.
That's an overreaction. And I'm going to say something. Christopher Nolan is indeed a very, very talented filmmaker.
He's amazing.
But I don't think he's in the top 10 of all time. And I say that because he needs to show me, I want him to make a comedy. I want him to make a romance. I want him to make more stuff, more diverse kinds of stories. I want him to make a story that doesn't revolve around myth. He's literally got everything he's done is mythic in nature in a way. And I want to see him tell a real, maybe a human story set in today. I mean, he's a great mythic filmmaker, but I wonder if he can do something else. I'd like to see him go back and do a Memento. Not like Memento, but I want to see him do a grounded. I want to see him come back to earth and make a $30 million passion project.
Well, that's why my favorite film of his is still Insomnia.
Well, there you go.
I love that film. Yeah, it's an overreaction. It is. Now, look, could it eventually get to that? Yes. Let's not forget, Christopher Nolan, by director standards, is still really young. He's got a lot of filmmaking still in front of him. If he were to retire today, I'll disagree with you, Rob, that he's not in the top 10. I think I would have him in my top 10 at this point, but lower down the scale.
Well, I was thinking of all time.
Of all time, I just don't think so. And again, let's have that conversation again in 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
Maybe we have different answers, but as of right now, no, absolutely not. That's an overreaction.
But that's not to take anything away from his accomplishment.
No, you know how much we love him around here. He's amazing.
He's C-note.
But it needs more to be the GOAT. It needs a lot more to be. Listen, Steven Spielberg has put in 4.5 decades of making the most celebrated stuff across every single genre imaginable. Give Christopher Nolan some more time.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
All right, John, back to you now. Is this an overreaction? We hear from Mason, who says Avengers Doomsday will be over 3 hours long.
If we had asked that question 3 years ago, I might have said it's not an overreaction. Today I will. There was a big backlash. Remember, we went through a couple of years where it seemed movies were getting longer and longer and longer. They even started joking about it at the award shows and stuff like that. Since then, we've seen it retract a little bit. Sometimes to an extreme, like making sure Superman stayed at 2 hours. But I think they're going to aim now. Secret Wars is going to be that's a horse of a different color. But for Endgame, I don't think they're going to go over 3 hours. I really don't. I think they're going to keep that to under 3 hours. That is Doomsday. The new kind of Doomsday. Sorry. Yeah. That is the new trend to keep that there. So Secret Wars may be different, but I think it's an overreaction to think that Doomsday will be over. It's not impossible, but I think it's an overreaction to say Doomsday will be over 3 hours. Rob, what about you?
I think it's an overreaction because clearly Avengers Doomsday Part 1 will be 2.5 hours and Avengers Doomsday Part 2 will be 2.5 hours.
By the way, that is still speculation on our part.
It's still speculation. I don't know anything. But it'd be really cool if... But yeah, I think it's probably going to be... Although, yeah, I think they're going to keep it to... It's going to be a breakneck pace. I think they're going to keep it under 3 hours, depending on how much story they have to tell. But I have to tell you, having watched Endgame twice in the last week because of Colton's video, Endgame is a unbelievably well-paced movie. You know, I've been watching it in terms of its structure and what it goes from scene to scene to scene. There is not a moment of, even when they go see Professor Hulk and they're sitting in the diner, you know, and the kids come over and they take the picture with him. That movie has a perfect breakneck pace. And I don't think that Doomsday is going to be anything less than that.
All right. What's next?
All right, Rob, is this an overreaction when we hear from Isaac, who says Supergirl is going to have a higher critic and audience rating than Spider-Man and Doomsday?
I think that's an overreaction. I do think Supergirl's probably going to surprise a lot of critics by how weighty the subject matter is. But I don't think it's necessarily going to have a higher critics rating.
Or audience.
Or audience rating. It's hard. I mean, that's hard to say. I mean, I would imagine, look, I'm expecting Doomsday to be, frankly, the greatest movie ever made. More than Gone with the Wind, more than Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, more than Star Wars, more than Jaws. Clearly, Avengers Doomsday is going to be embraced by the world as the greatest bit of cinema that we have ever seen.
Gone with the Wind, huh?
All right. I'm going to say this isn't an overreaction. And I say that based on one thing. Craig Gillespie.
Oh, yeah.
The guy who directed I, Tonya. What was the name of the one that he just did? Was it called Dumb Money?
Love Dumb Money.
Yeah, Dumb Money. Oh my God, that movie with
Paul Dano.
First of all, Paul Dano is in the main role. You've got, who was the guy who played the main one that kept losing? How much did you lose today? $1 billion. Oh, it was Seth Rogen. That's right. How much did we lose today? $1 billion. How much did we lose yesterday? $1 billion. It's like Dumb Money. I don't know why that movie didn't get way more pop.
I know.
He's doing a whole bunch of TV with Friends and Neighbors. Again, we talked about I, Tonya. He did Lars and the Real Girl.
Yeah.
Love Lars and the Real Girl.
Like, this guy is a prestige director. He's great. And he's doing, and I can't express how much I loved I, Tonya. By the way, the movie that really gave us Paul Walter Hauser. That was the movie that made Paul Walter Hauser a household name. And he's so good that I can't say it would be an overreaction to think that there's a good possibility it could be critically more well-received than these other movies we're mentioning. So I guaranteed lock, no, but I'm going to say it's not an overreaction. All right. What's next?
Yeah, our final one. John, is this an overreaction when we hear from Noah and Katz, who says if Avatar 3 is the best Avatar film yet, then these first 3 films are in the top 10 of all-time best trilogy contention?
Well, I'm going to say that's definitely not an overreaction because top 10 best trilogies that's not an exclusive club. I mean, it's not difficult to get into the top 10. There's not a lot of truly remarkable, awe-inspiring overall trilogies. So I don't think it's an overreaction, but I'm going to take the liberty here of doing something I never do, which I'm going to modify your question. Does it become in the top 5? I think that's a more interesting question. Now, even if Avatar is the best of the franchise, and it's hard to say this having not seen it yet, but I don't know, maybe I'll walk in and I think it's the greatest movie ever made and that changes everything. But let's just say it's on par with the other two. Is it in the discussion for the top 5 best trilogy? Yeah, I think it's in the discussion. I mean, does it obviously usurp things like the greatest of all time, the original Star Wars trilogy? No. Does it usurp the Lord of the Rings trilogy? No. Does it usurp the Toy Story trilogy? I will say no.
I would too.
But that leaves a little bit of wiggle room after you get past those 3. And you know what? I will say it's definitely not for a top 10. But I'm even going to say it's not an overreaction to say it's in the conversation, because that's your terminology. Is it in the conversation for top 5? I'm going to say that's not an overreaction. Rob, what about you?
I agree. I since you modified it, but for top 10, definitely not. I don't think it's an overreaction, because one of the interesting things about Avatar too that I think is important to remember is it was conceived that way. It was conceived to be multiple movies, and it was conceived to tell this story. And I feel that while Avatar 3 is really the second part of Way of Water, it's all like kind of like one movie, and I understand it plays similar beats. I feel a fulfilling vision with those films. The fact that Cameron made all 3 of them. So it's a really fulfilling. I think one of the great trilogies. I'm with Quentin Tarantino that Sergio Leone's Man with No Name trilogy, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, for Fistful of Dollars, is one of the great trilogies. It wasn't made as a trilogy, but it became a trilogy, and I think it's one of the greatest, especially if you watch it backwards.
You got to put the Godfather films in there, I suppose. I mean, whatever you think about number 3, all of them got nominated for Best Picture. 2 of them won.
Yeah, and to me, the Godfather trilogy is right up there as well. It depends. But
so if we say that, okay, the first 4 spots in no particular order are locked in with Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Toy Story, Godfather, that leaves one more spot for a 5th film. I mean, then we're going to be talking about the Dark Knight trilogy. I think the Dark Knight Rises takes that out of the running.
I do too.
You got the Captain America trilogy, which you can't just wave off. So that's a good one.
No, it's true.
Did you mention Paddington?
Listen, Paddington. That would be in the conversation. I think the 3rd Matrix film takes the Matrix out of the running for that.
If Back to the Future 3 was more solid, man.
Yeah, and if Indiana Jones only had 3 movies.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Then
the
you would
first
count
3.
the 3.
Indiana Jones trilogy has to be in that conversation. So I think you're talking about the Captain America trilogy, the Indiana Jones first trilogy, and Avatar. If Avatar turns out to be, say, on par with the other ones, I think those are the 3 series then fighting it up for that 5th spot. Anyway, but
yeah, good question. Really interesting.
That's a great question. I like that one. All right, guys, that'll wrap up today's session of Overreaction. Thank you, everybody, for sending in your hot takes. Keep your guys' eyes open on the YouTube channel when we put out our call for more hot takes and our next round of Overreaction. All right, guys, listen, with that down, we still got a couple things we got to talk about, including the fact that apparently it's now been disclosed in legal filings that Paramount offered David Zaslav hundreds of millions of dollars to back Paramount's bid for Netflix, to which he declined. Also, seems that fans right now, as a result of a couple of small things, are absolutely convinced they now know who the new Batman is. And we're not saying where there's smoke, there's fire, but there is a little smoke. Anyway, we're going to talk about those things and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Aura. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Aura. Guys, if you are anything like me, you swear every year you're going to be on top of your Christmas shopping, and then suddenly it's December 20th, the shelves are empty, and you're standing around in Target asking yourself, does my aunt even like candles? But this year, I am not doing that because of Aura Frames. It's completely saved me. See, I always struggled with what to get people in my life, but this year I'm going to give out a couple of Aura Frames, and it's hands down the most personal, meaningful gift that I can possibly give. And here's the best part. Aura lets you upload unlimited photos and and videos. Plus, the frame comes in a premium gift box with no price tag, so it feels like a classy, well thought out gift, even if you bought it last minute. Guys, you can't gift wrap togetherness, but you can frame it. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code CAMPEA at the checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code Campea. This deal is exclusive to our listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in on time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning that we sent you at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. And thank you to our friends at Aura for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, always, every day, there's new developments in this whole Warner Brothers takeover story. Netflix has won the bids. Paramount is not giving it up. They're still going after it. Well, here's something interesting. You remember one of the objections that Paramount said about Netflix's bid was, it's inappropriate, says Paramount, that Netflix seemed to be offering some cushy jobs to executives at Warner Brothers to back their bid. Oh, by the way, I heard saw this great Filipino dude who goes, how do you say I told you so in Tagalog, in Filipino? Oh, which I've been around Anne's family enough to know that that is exactly right. So anyway, yeah, so Paramount was all guffawed at the fact that Netflix may have offered some jobs. Well, according to new filings, Paramount offered David Zaslav, CEO of WB, hundreds of millions of dollars to back the Paramount bid. Variety is writing this. Inside the fractious WBD Paramount deal talks, Ellison's offered David Zaslav a pay package worth several $100 million, which Zaslav said was inappropriate to discuss. Now, I'm going to just kind of scoot down here to the relevant part of it, where it writes the following. Per the filing with the SEC, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav told the company board after David Ellison's initial $19 a share offer in September that the Ellisons, David and his father, billionaire Larry Ellison, had indicated to him that if a transaction between Paramount Skydance and Warner Brothers Discovery were to occur, Mr. Zaslav would receive a compensation package worth several $100 million. Several $100 million. According to the WBD filing, Zaslav advised the Warner Brothers Discovery board that he informed the Ellisons that it would be inappropriate to discuss any such arrangements at that time. Now, let me first say there was nothing illegal about what the Ellisons did, right? Let's be clear. To make a proposition that, hey, as a part of this deal, we're going to make sure that you're taken care of, that whatever. I have no issue. I personally have no issue that they approached and made such an offer. I just find it interesting that this information comes out after Paramount put out this public letter saying we object because we think, they don't even know, we think Netflix may have offered some jobs to the board, to some of the board and executive members of Warner Brothers for this. That's called hypocrisy. That's called hypocrisy, kids. Now, listen, by the way, lest any of us think that David Zaslav now has this golden halo around his thing, and you hear angels sing as he walks because he is so pure of spirit and of heart that he turned down several hundreds millions of dollars for this. Do keep in mind that because of the sheer number of shares that David Zaslav owns, he's going to be a billionaire when this deal goes through, to whoever it goes to, whether it goes to Netflix, whether it goes to Paramount. When you combine his already sizable wealth compared to what then he's going to get paid out as a result of the deal, regardless, he's a very, very rich man. So listen, it's still absolutely astute and proper that he said this isn't appropriate, went to his own board, disclosed to the board what had happened. They put it in the filings, did everything above board. That's commendable. But let's not pretend that after this deal is done, poor David Zaslav, he's going to be living out of his car after the, no, he's going to be very, very, very wealthy and very, very rich. But again, it just kind of shows that there's a Game of Thrones happening here. This is seriously a living Game of Thrones that's playing out before our eyes, and with the backstabbing and the intrigue and the positioning and the moves being made on the board. Anyway, Rob, you saw this report that apparently they straight up offered Zaslav hundreds of millions to get behind this deal and to make the deal happen. And he turned it down. He's still going to be rich. But anyway, what's your takeaway from this?
I think it was a smart move. I mean, I think that, look, the Paramount play, as we've seen it, as it's played out, I mean, they didn't have the money. They didn't have the stability for the deal. You know, the Saudi deal with Jared Kushner fell apart, and they knew that was the case. So I think he made the right he made the right choice, and he knew, like, if someone's offering you that, any great businessman knows when a deal that seems too good to be true is. And David Zaslav, say what you want, he didn't get to the position he's in by being he's not dumb, you know, and he's made some great moves at Warner Brothers. And remember when he came to town, he took meetings with a bunch of people because he knew there was a lot of stuff that he didn't know about the business. Yeah. I'm sure he has half of the town's movers and shakers on speed dial. People like David Geffen that he probably calls and says, listen, tell me about how this works. And because he's a smart guy. And he probably had a lot of people advising him what to do that he was calling and asking, because he's not dumb. And look, I love David Ellison. I've heard nothing but good things about him from people that work with him. I want to see Paramount flourish. And look, this logo does not remind me of the word no. So I think that I've come around to Netflix. I never thought I would say that, but
I'm not willing to go that far yet. I'm willing to say I've softened on Netflix.
I guess that's how I should put it.
Yeah, I still have my apprehensions about everything, and I still wish Warner Brothers wasn't being sold, but I'm no longer on that position that I was on, which is Netflix is absolutely the worst case scenario.
I mean, it still could be. After year 2 or 3, theatrical's over.
Yeah,
you're burnt.
Which, again, would make no sense that you'd spend $80 billion then on that. But by the way, in the light of all this, Ted Sarandos over at Netflix and David Zaslav have started putting out pictures. Take a look at these. This was taken the other day, where even though Paramount is still fighting to try to get Warner Brothers, David Zaslav, CEO of Warner Brothers, is seen here escorting and showing around the two top bosses over at Netflix, Ted Sarandos, and I forget who the other guy is, and showing them around.
Is it Casey Bloyd?
By the way, I've walked down all these. No. The other guy's also from Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
I've been down these alleyways many times. I've walked down this stuff. He's showing them around. You know what this is? I told this to Rob a little bit earlier. This is Ted Sarandos pulling out his Netflix wiener and pissing on the fire hydrant, marking that as his territory. That's exactly, by putting out these, this is clearly meant to agitate the people at Paramount, I think, saying, oh, it's already done, man. It's a done deal. We're walking around taking a look at our new digs. That's what they're doing.
You want me to tell you, can I tell you this picture that you just had up? That building,
this one here,
with the little 9,
with
building 9 right there. I was almost hit on a bike by Prince when he was in the middle of post-production on the movie Graffiti Bridge.
That's
and
hilarious.
He was in that building. He was coming out of that building, and a chick was still his bodyguard. I didn't know he was in the car.
By the way, somebody in the live chat is saying Ellison's next plan is to stand outside of Zaslav's office with a boombox. Pulling his best.
Yeah.
Oh,
say anything.
That is so
his
funny.
Best say anything.
I was going to say, not John Malkovich.
John Cusack.
John Cusack. Pulling his best John Cusack.
Although John Malkovich doing that would be pretty funny.
That would also be
eyes.
The light, the heat. I mean, I could totally see it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, we're finding out more and more what's going on with this whole Game of Thrones succession, whatever you want to call it, scenario. And apparently, Paramount over. And by the way, I have no issue with this. They offered, David Zaslav hundreds of millions to try to get the Paramount deal through. He turned it down. We got them now walking around what they think is going to be their new digs over Warner Bros. Anyway, I love waking up every day to find out what the next chapter in this whole drama is going to be. Question is for you. What did you make of all this? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. Now, normally, I wouldn't leave what has to be categorized as a rumor as our final topic of the day. But as I often do, about an hour or two before the show, I go to our YouTube members and I put up a poll. For some of you may not know that I do this, but almost every day, not every day, but almost every day, I take 4 of the topics that we're going to be discussing and I put them up and I ask our YouTube followers and I put a poll. What do you think should be our main headline topic today? And overwhelmingly, our viewers voted on this story. And it is interesting. Obviously, one of the big questions casting-wise that's going around in the world of film fans right now is who's going to be the new Batman? I mean, we got Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson's Batman going on in their own isolated universe, which is awesome. But we have a new DCU, and we haven't met our DCU Batman yet. And right now, a lot of outlets like this one, like a venerable one in our space, Superhero Hype, a site I like very much, by the way, is running this story, and it's like fans are confident who the DCU's Batman is after what David Cornsweet did. Now, I want to highlight, this is why I put it in the title and everything, that this is what fans are thinking. But as I said a little bit earlier in the show, where there's smoke does not necessarily mean there's fire, but there is a little bit of smoke here. And follow me with this. Let me read what Superhero Hype wrote. Fans have been curious about who will play the DCU's Batman since the new universe was announced, and Superman actor David Cornsweet recently sparked a new wave of speculation. Fans have noted that David Cornsweet started following, and I finally learned how to say his last name, Brandon Sklenar. Yeah, Brandon Sklenar on Instagram. And many now are wondering whether that is a clue that Sklenar is the DCU Batman. Many fans got excited after noticing the Superman actor David Cornsweet followed Brandon Sklenar on Instagram. The hype comes after persistent rumors about Sklenar being cast as DCU's new Batman this year in April. During an interview with Screen Rant, the It Ends With Us actor and the 1923 and Drop actor. By the way, I loved him in Drop. I loved that movie. This commented on the rumor saying, let's keep running with that, him being Batman. That's something I've wanted to do since I was a little kid, and I've never even talked about it. It just started happening, and I was like, this is cool. And now maybe, hopefully, it happens one day. Okay. Let's be clear here. Whether it's in the world of movies or sports or whatever, I never think we should take too much out of who's following who gave a thumbs up on a social media post as being too much here. I mean, granted, when you have a professional athlete who there are rumors they're not getting along with their team, and then all of a sudden that athlete removes all references to that team from their social media, that means something. If you know, you know. But does David Cornsweet now following Brandon Sklenar mean that he's the new Batman? Obviously not. But remember when I said where there's smoke, there's not necessarily fire, but there is certainly at least a little bit of smoke. The reality is this little nothing thing of David Cornsweet following him on social media on its own is absolutely nothing, but it does not happen in a vacuum. It doesn't come in a vacuum. And I am definitely, to be clear, not saying that Brandon Sklenar is our new Batman, but this happens in the context that there have been rumors for months from different places that Brandon Sklenar is the guy they're looking at to play Batman. one that we have never confirmed or even talked about too much around here. It's come up once or twice. But the reality is he has been the focus of a lot of fan speculation for a long time. His own interview was certainly not a denial, but gushing on the fact that I have always wanted to do this. I can't believe this is even happening. The fact that everybody kind of wants him as Batman and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, it also doesn't hurt that he would be a really good Batman. I mean, he's not my number one choice, but he's got the look, he's got the acting chops, he's got the physique. He's got it all. And he's kind of an it boy right now, especially with The Housemaid or The Handmaid or whatever, Hand Job, whatever the name of that movie is.
That's it.
Is that's the name of it?
Yeah.
It's Housemaid? That's what it is, Housemaid. That he's got that coming out right now. I mean, so again, this is one of those things where I think fandom can get a little over anxious over something as little as somebody followed somebody. But it's not ludicrous when you consider all the interview, the months of speculation, where he is positioned right now in Hollywood, the fact that he says that this is something that would be a dream of his. Then you add on that. Again, to be clear, does this mean he's going to be our new Batman? It doesn't.
Okay,
but does it justify us saying this is something we should probably keep our eye on?
I didn't realize he was like this giant.
Oh yeah, he's a big dude.
I just assumed he was like 5'10" or something from the pictures. So now I'm like, oh wow, okay, this guy's pretty big.
You know what I found out about him today?
What?
You know what his first big role was? In Britney Spears' Hit Me Baby One More Time.
I knew I remember him somewhere.
He was one of the guys, you remember the guys sitting on the bleachers, fist bumping on the he was one of those guys. I think I got the right song. But anyway, I found that out today. I learned something new about him today. There you go. Anyway, if you haven't seen him in Drop, like that's where I really got convinced because, I don't really like his character all that much in 1923, to be honest with you. But it was in Drop that I went, this guy's exudes like this very natural warmth, this very natural, I'm going to use the word charisma, but not in the same way that I would use it with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's just got something about him that is naturally attractive. I'm not talking about his looks, but it's naturally, you're attracted to that end of, yeah. Again, a charisma, but different than in the way I would use it for The Rock. So anyway, Rob, you see outlets like Superhero Hype and others writing about this. I've seen a lot of chatter about it. We've heard people saying his name for months in connection to the role. What's your takeaway from this?
Well, he certainly looks the part.
He really does.
He looks like a great Bruce Wayne. I mean, I could see him playing Batman. And what's really important for a Batman actor is his mouth and lower jaw, because that's what you're going to see in the suit.
He looks kind of a little bit like, if you told me he was playing Chris Evans's brother in a movie, I would totally buy it.
Yeah, I would too. He's got that look.
I even get like Joel Edgerton.
So I would.
Oh yeah, a little bit of that too.
Yeah, I would say that he definitely could be Batman. The piercing eyes and all that. I think, and look, I think that, like you said, David Cornsweet, they might have been. They might have been auditioning for the same role for a totally different movie and met for the first time. Like, hey, dude, what's up? They started following each other on Instagram. However, it's conspicuous. They had to know that this was going to happen. I mean, why doesn't somebody just say, come on, James Gunn, is Brandon Sklenar our new Batman? And to me, I looked Gunn. I mean, he's gonna be all over social media when he announces it. Somebody just call him on it. Ask him.
He just won't answer it. I mean, if it's true, he won't answer.
But if it's that, then that's an answer.
There's a lot. Listen, for as much as he
because if he's not, Gunn would say no.
For every one question he answers on social media, there's 5,000 he doesn't answer.
It's true.
We just talk about the ones that he does answer, which is more than most people do. At least in his position, kind of do. But I would like to see somebody ask him just out of curiosity to see what he would say. Maybe I should give him a call.
I wouldn't I don't know how to word this correctly because I don't want to insinuate I'm correct. But if this were to play out, it would not surprise. Okay, I say it like this: it would not surprise me if his name was planted by the industry, and then the fans took off with it as if it was a fan-based plant. It was not. It was a studio plant, and that when he did that interview, they said, throw it out there in the interview and let's see how the fans react to it.
Well, you know what does happen a lot, though? And James Gunn himself was talking about this. He said, what happens a lot with these, this person's name's being talked about. It's not the studio that plants it. It's that guy's agents that plant it.
Yeah. Oh, that's
sometimes actors' agents will leak stuff or slip stuff that isn't even real to outlets to get chatter and to associate their client's name with a role. And James Gunn spoke about that directly when he did. I remember the first time I heard him talk about it was in your actor, Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, when James Gunn was on Inside You.
Right.
With Michael Rosenbaum.
He's great in that.
That's a great interview.
He does a great interview with everybody.
Yeah. Michael Rosenbaum is really good. His podcast is he's a great interviewer.
He's a terrific guy.
He makes it personal and warm while also asking the questions people want to know. Anyway, but in that interview he did with James Gunn, Gunn specifically talked about how all these casting rumors that go around and people think that I said it. And he said, what it is 9 times out of 10 is like some actor's agent puts those out there just so their client's names gets talked about it. And so maybe that's the situation here, or maybe it's the studio, like Jonathan's suggesting, maybe it is the studio that's leaking it to gauge. But I don't actually think studios do that very much when it comes to casting. I think I think directors know who they want in their role, because, hey, listen, if they put out a gauge to see how would people think about Heath Ledger playing the Joker, the response would not have been good.
No.
You kind of said it like Heath Ledger.
Brokeback Mountain Boy. Yeah, that was before there was Twilight Boy. Yeah. There was Brokeback Mountain Boy as the Joker.
And before that, it was Mr. Mom Boy.
Yeah, it was. It totally was Mr. Mom Boy. Mr. Mom is Batman. I mean, so I don't know. Look, I'll say this. As we always do when it comes to these things that are not fact yet, we ask 2 questions. 1, what do we think the chances of its validity are? And 2, if it were, for the sake of the discussion, valid, what would we think about it? I'm going to say at this point, I don't think this is real, but there is a little bit of smoke, so I won't be stunned if we find out it is him. But for now, I'll say I'm going to bet it's going to be somebody else. That said, if we lived in a world where this was true, and we find out tomorrow, James Gunn hops on Threads and says, I'm thrilled to say a guy who I think is perfect to play Batman, Brandon Sklenar, is going to be our new Batman. Let's say that happens. I'm all for it. Again, not my first choice, but there's probably a good list of 15 to 20 guys that I think if they pick them, they're the right kind of guy to do it. And then I'm just going to trust the casting to do it. If it did come out tomorrow that he was playing it, not my first choice, but one that I'll be happy with and one that I'll be very satisfied with and I'll look forward to it. Rob, I ask you the same 2 questions. Likelihood that it's real, and then if it is real, if it was real, how would you feel about it?
Well, like you said, I think there's a little smoke there. You know, I think the guy's a charismatic on-screen presence. I like the fact that he is not hugely well-known. I think that he would go, the real question is, would he be a great Batman, but would he be a great Batman interacting with David Corenswet? And I think I could see them as world's finest, you know, in costume together. And I think what James Gunn is doing, I like what James Gunn, he doesn't anchor his projects in necessarily well-known actors. He likes his character actors. He likes bringing in unusual people that you haven't thought of. Like, you know, he didn't even want Chris Pratt to play Star-Lord. He tells the story about his casting director is Sarah Finn, whatever, just kept suggesting him. He's like the chubby guy from...
Do you know where he first told that story?
To you?
On our show. Yeah, he first told that story on our show as we were talking about the first Guardians movie.
Yeah, I mean, and yet he ended up casting him because he recognized, like, they could have got a much bigger actor to play Star-Lord. But James Gunn doesn't want that. You know, he wants to be able, I think James Gunn wants to be able to find people and put them in positions that they don't necessarily expect them to be in. And then he's got his company of players like Michael Rooker, and he's got, but I think that's what he did. He spent a long time looking for David Corenswet, and I'll tell you, that guy nailed it. He's a great, a great Superman.
He really did.
And he's terrific. And when he sits down and says Miss Lane, when they're going to do the interview, I'm like, that's Superman. That voice is coming, and you look at him and like how when he sits down and I'm like, that dude is Superman 100%.
Side note, you know Total Film Magazine?
Yeah.
Do you know that they just listed Superman as the #1 film of the year?
Yeah,
Now, I love Superman. I love Superman. It's not my number one film of the year, but Total Film just put out their top 10 films of the year list, and they listed Superman as the number one film of the year. Good for them. It's all subjective.
That's good.
Anyway.
But look, I think it's a possibility. I'll just say this. It wouldn't surprise me. And I think it's a good choice. I think it'll be announced when it's going to be announced, but I do think this. They already know who their Batman is. They just haven't announced it yet.
Oh, I agree with you. I believe they've known who their Batman is for a
long time.
Yeah, I think they've known who they've got circled for a while. It's just a matter of waiting. Remember, when Ben Affleck was announced as Batman, we later found out he had actually accepted the role 6 months prior to that.
Yeah.
So I think they've got it. We just don't know who it is yet. Anyway, guys, question is for you. A lot of chatter going around now. A lot of people believe that Brandon Sklenar is now our Batman, not based on very reliable evidence, but that's the chatter. And it's been chatter that's been around for a long time. Do you buy it? But maybe even more importantly, just assume for a second that it was true. How would you feel about it? I like it personally, even though I have my doubts about its validity. Whatever you guys think about all this, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that all down, we're going to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we got to do two things. First of all, bid good day to writer, director, producer Robert Meyer Burnett. Great job as always, man. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you. I'll be back. Jonathan, I'll see you on Monday.
All right.
And of course, we need to take another moment here to thank another sponsor of today's episode, our friends at PrizePicks. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this episode, PrizePicks. Honestly, this is the best time of year for sports. We've got hockey, basketball's heating up, football pushing towards the playoffs, and big games happening every single night. And while we can sit around and argue about which team's going to win, there's one place where it just feels good to be right, and that's PrizePicks. What I love most about PrizePicks is just how simple it is. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, build your lineup, and that's it. No drafts, no season-long commitments, just jump in whenever you want. And I have been having a blast making lineups while watching games, and it honestly makes every matchup way more fun to follow. One of the coolest things about it is that they've just added early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may have the option to cash out before the game even finishes. And I also love how flexible it is. Whether you're going for safer, flex play, or bigger power plays, PrizePicks makes everything super clear with their payout multipliers. So here's what you do. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code Campea to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Campea to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you to our sponsor, PrizePicks. John's a little preoccupied here, so I'm going to read the first question, and then we'll get right into this. First question comes from, where is it? Bry Guy, but I got to move up. Why isn't it taking? This is very strange. 1 second, guys. For some reason, it's not showing. It's not updating the screen here. There we go. Okay. First up is Bry Guy. Says, top 5 most anticipated 2026 for Bry Guy here for All Mankind, Disclosure Day, Odyssey, Dune 3, now Diggers, Alejandro Iñárritu, and Tom Cruise. Sign me up.
You throwing in a TV show in that? Man, if we're gonna include TV shows, man, I don't know. Look, again, I don't have a list off the top of my head about what the 5 most anticipated are, but in the conversation, again, once for me, a lot of things I am really looking forward to. The Odyssey, again, in no particular order. Odyssey, Project Hail Mary, the new Spider-Man film, Endgame, Digger might be on there now too.
Oh, they didn't mean for All Mankind. They said they meant what's it with Ryan Gosling?
Project Hail Mary.
Project Hail Mary.
Okay, yeah. So there's a bunch of really cool looking things coming next year. All right, what's next?
We got Mighty Tank says, with the Oscars moving to YouTube, does that eliminate the urgency to keep the show to 3 hours?
You know, that's a really good question because one of the reasons like they play people off and all that kind of stuff is because like on network broadcasts, you got a fixed amount of time. And the more you go over, it's disrupting their entire programming schedule. With YouTube, that doesn't happen. Look, I'll say that I hadn't even thought about this, but this is great because on the one hand, you still would like to keep it to about 3 hours because nobody wants to sit down and watch the Oscars for 6 hours, right? But at the same time, it does mean that they don't have that artificial, limit point. I don't want to see the Oscars go 5 hours long, but if we could get rid of that damn awkward playoff, although I don't want to have a repeat of Adrian Brody.
I know. Adrian.
Or Adrian.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, God. Why am I?
You just took the name out of my... I said
Adrian Brody. Adrian. Anyway, the guy who won Best Actor last year. It is Brody.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I was right. Adrian Brody, feeling like he's more important than everybody else, and he was going to take 17 hours to give his acceptance speech. Nobody wants that either. But, somebody get up there and have more than 10 seconds before the music starts playing, and you don't really have to worry about it. Again, it's a mixture. It does take away that thing that you have to keep it to 3, but I also want to make sure they still keep it tight.
Right.
But at least give a little bit more breathing room to things like acceptance speeches. So there could be some really cool things that come about as a result of it being on YouTube. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, when you said that, my mind said Adam Brody, and that's why I was like, no.
Right.
Johnny,
all right, what's next?
Johnny Got Lost says, is Zaslav staying, or do we not know yet?
I think the odds are that he's staying. I think that unless he wants to move on to something else, but every time Netflix talks about, they talk about keeping all the teams in place.
Yeah.
Zaslav is the head of Warner Brothers, which has multiple branches, including Warner Brothers Pictures and DC. They're 2 separate branches. And so maybe here's my guess. My guess is he stays. That's my guess. My guess he stays. But it's very possible that he leaves after this because he just doesn't feel maybe he needs to be there anymore. And he'll have other mountains he wants to conquer. But my guess is that he'll stay. All right, what's next?
Dino Vader says, I saw Avatar yesterday and was naturally excited for Avengers Doomsday trailer. First, however, they showed a roughly 5-minute clip of the Odyssey. My conclusion, I'm hyped for the Odyssey and disappointed by Doomsday.
Listen, I said the other day that if that Steve Rogers leaked thing that came out is actually the first thing we're getting, even though Steve Rogers is my #1 favorite character in the MCU played by Chris Evans, and while I absolutely believe it is essential for them to bring him back in order to try to move on. I know it sounds weird. I said this, but I'll say it again. They tried to move on after Endgame and they failed. They didn't do it right.
Yeah.
They need to do it again. They need to bring back Robert Downey Jr. They need to bring back Chris Evans so that they can move on past them again. You need to bring them back in order to do that. As somebody who believes all of that, I'm kind of disappointed too. I wasn't expecting a full trailer. I wasn't expecting them to give away the movie. I wasn't expecting any of that. But something more splashy than that. So I got to admit, I'm a little bit disappointed too. But anyway, we'll see where it's all leading.
Yeah. And there are supposed to be 4 trailers, right? So it's not the only look we're getting.
Exactly.
Harv's K, 2-parter. With the leaked Spidey trailer and rumors she's in Secret Wars, perhaps Sadie Sink is playing Black Swan. She served as both villain and guide on how to survive incursions during Hickman's time runs out and Secret Wars storyline, and was unknowingly with other Black Swans to be a pawn of Doctor Doom.
That's possible, but I really don't see anything in there that points to that. Look, who she is remains a wide spectrum of possibilities and characters who could be. Because remember, too, just because one character does something in the comics, the Russos and Kevin Feige have done this a lot. They'll take those actions but ascribe them to a different character, right? So just because a certain character did an action in a comic, that doesn't mean if they want that action to happen that it has to be the character that did it in the comic book at all. They've taken a lot of liberties that will continue. I am personally I'm still on the Jean Grey train. Even with that comment in the leaked Spider-Man trailer that makes it sound villainous when she says, you're a mess, Spider-Man, but you need to stay out of my way or it's not just your friends who will forget that you're Peter Parker, right? That's a villainous sounding line, but we hear it completely out of context. So again, I am not saying it will be Jean Grey. I'm still kind of on that train a little bit until we learn more information and I change my mind. All right, what's next?
Christopher with a two-parter. While the sequel trilogy killed interest I had in going past Episode 9 in Star Wars timeline, I'm interested in other eras like Mandoverse and Old Republic. I'm excited for Fate of the Old Republic with Lucasfilm going into the Old Republic and Casey Hudson directing. The guy who directed Mass Effect trilogy and Knights of the Old Republic. One, yes, please. That's the game, though.
Yeah, I am still completely on board with moving the Star Wars story forward.
Yeah.
I'm still completely on board for a Star Wars Episode 10.
Because the Mandoverse just leads to the trilogy that he's talking about.
And the Mandoverse has been hit and miss. I mean, you got Mandalorian Season 3 sucked. Book of Boba Fett sucked. There's some good things in there, like Mando Season 1, Mando Season 2. Ahsoka was completely underwhelming. I'm not going to say it sucked, but it was completely underwhelming. But regardless, it's not a matter of which era. It's just a matter about making good stories. You can do Old Republic and tell a terrible story. But I like the idea of now moving like 25 years further and having a Star Wars Episode 10, all new characters, all new scenario, ready to go. But, we'll kind of see. All right, what's next?
Amin says, happy 10-year anniversary of The Force Awakens. Man, what a time that was leading up to it. No matter what people say, I love it. It's great.
Yeah, listen, the majority of people do really like The Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. I'm one of them. I tell the story all the time, but me and Schnepp, at least 10 times, me and John Schnepp would like sneak out in the middle of the day. Maybe we were on our lunch or we had a bit of a window in between shows, and we would walk across the street to the AMC Burbank 16 and just go watch The Force Awakens again. I loved it. Again, nowhere near the original trilogy, but I really enjoyed it and liked it a lot. And unfortunately, they just got progressively worse after that one, but I still really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. All right, what's next?
Wolf Mott says, hey, John, just wanted to say it's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Just turned 24, played Magic all night last night, and in 1 year, Doomsday will celebrate the big 2-5.
I'm assuming you mean Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I think so.
You know what's funny? Somebody brought this up the other day. Ann and I, for a couple of years, we both got really into Magic the Gathering. Partly because Ann was over at Hasbro and they owned Wizards of the Coast, right, and they owned all that. But we both got really heavy into Magic the Gathering, and we would play it a lot at home. I remember me and Jeremy Johns would play it a bunch. We used to play it a lot. And then we kind of fell out of it for a little while. And when we thought, we got to get back into Magic the Gathering. But then we took a look at it and they changed a whole bunch of the rules of the game and introduced a whole bunch of new mechanics. And I was like, this doesn't feel as fun anymore. And we just stopped, which is unfortunate because I've got drawers and drawers
of cards,
of Magic cards, man. Binders, sleeves, the whole bit. We've got loads of it. But it's just that they changed and introduced a bunch of new mechanics, and it was like, this doesn't seem as fun anymore. So we haven't played it, but we used to be so into that game, man. We used to be into it so much. All right, what's next?
Christopher Brickner, Episode 7 turns 10 this year. What a weird legacy it has.
Yeah, again, it's unfortunate that, the Last Jedi was not as good as The Force Awakens. I still think it has its merits. Yeah. I still think The Last Jedi has its merits.
It's okay to me.
Yeah, it's okay. It's got some things I completely hate about it. It's got some things that I thought were really good in it. But again, not as good as The Force Awakens. But then we got to the Rise of Skywalker. Dear heavens.
Yeah.
It
was just bad in a different way from the prequels.
I literally made a half hour. I think you might have edited it.
Yeah.
I made a half hour editorial video on all the ways that the Rise of Skywalker was a complete dumpster fire. I mean, it was just so bad. It's really unfortunate because, again, it started off well. It started well. The Force Awakens was really good, and it just went in all the wrong directions after that. All right, what's next?
Christopher follows up. I love The Force Awakens when it came out. I can't rewatch the movie as I can't look past the issues that came from it later, but that's a me issue.
Yeah, I've never felt that. I have never felt that when I'll just use this one as an example. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but analyze this and analyze that. Two movies in the same franchise. Analyze This came first. Billy Crystal, Robert De Niro, Lisa Kudrow. And then they did a sequel a couple of years later, Analyze That. I love to analyze this. Loved it. I think it's one of the underrated comedies. But one of the reasons I think a lot of people don't talk about it today is because they did analyze that, and it was terrible. Like, really terrible. But for me, no matter how bad analyzed that was, it does not in any way affect my enjoyment of that first film. The first film is still the first film. And I've had people ask me, John, how can you still like The Force Awakens with how bad The Rise of Skywalker was? Because they're two different movies. You know, what happens later, it's the same reason why if a remake gets made and it's terrible, it doesn't at all affect my enjoyment of the original. So, but again, we're just different people. Things affect you a little bit differently than they affect me. I'm just saying for me, no matter what comes out later that might be terrible, it never affects how I feel about the first one in and of itself. But that's just me. All right, what's next?
Oscar says, inspired by you, my family and I adopted 2 senior citizens for the holiday season.
Nice.
Some can't do it all. Everyone can do something. Happy holidays.
You know, that's one of the great, I love that. You can't do it all, but everybody can do something. One of the best things about the adoptive family program is that one of the reasons Ann and I do it, and that we do this collectively every year, is that we want everybody else to actually go to their local city government, find out if your local municipal government has an adoptive family program. Most do, and sign up yourself. And it doesn't take $2,000. Like, these families who are just trying to give their kids a Christmas, if you can get a couple of buddies together and put together like $200 and buy a couple of things for the kids to have just to have presents to open on Christmas, you have no idea. You have no idea the impact that makes. It's real and it's tangible and it's beautiful. And one of the reasons we do it is to encourage other people to do as well. So I'm so thrilled to hear that you're doing something like that as well. All right, what's next?
Amin says, do you have any final Avatar death predictions? I think Jake Sully bites it. I mean, he's the main character, and this is only the 3rd out of 5 films?
But they can move beyond it. Like,
yeah.
James Cameron has said before that the story will be about more than just the Sullys, right?
Are there supposed to be 5 or 6?
5.
Okay.
I believe it's 5. I'm going to say no. I think he'll die in this franchise, but I don't think it's going to be in the 3rd. There are a bunch of people who've seen the movie already who already know if I'm right or wrong, but my guess is he won't die in this one. I don't think any of the family die in this one. Like, maybe some other Na'vi, maybe the head of the Mordor Na'vi, as Rob likes to call them. Maybe Quaritch finally dies in this one, but for real this time and is gone. But I don't think any of the key family does. All right, what's next?
Amin said, Nerdy Nate comedy. Just left my 2:30 Eastern Time Avatar showtime after the Doomsday trailer. The leaks were correct. Had an Odyssey trailer as well, which was much better. Again,
I'm hoping they do it in more than just the IMAX screens, but I'm thinking it's just going to be IMAX. I hope it's not, because I'm seeing it in Prime. So we'll find out.
No, right, I guess Masters of the Universe is not screening a trailer because no one's talking about that. And
was there any reports that Masters?
We had said that it was possible that Masters was one of the ones that were going to be.
Yeah, Timeline put as one of the possibilities, but it's probably wise that they didn't, because if they put out a Masters of the Universe trailer in a movie that is also putting out footage of the Odyssey and Avengers Doomsday, then it'll get drowned out.
Yeah.
So it's probably a good idea that they didn't put it there. All right, what's next?
Chase says, my showing of Avatar, there was no Doomsday teaser.
You know, it's funny because there were some people who were at midnight screenings.
Oh, so maybe that didn't...
There were headlines about this, actually. Like, people demanding their money back because they went to go see Avatar, and some screenings didn't have the Doomsday trailer in front of it. I think it was like midnight screeners or something like that. And there were some really angry people that wanted their money back, to which the managers rightly said, you bought a ticket for Avatar, and you got the Avatar movie. We're not giving your money back, which is rightfully so. But yeah, some people were very upset because not everybody got it. I'll let you guys know if I get it. All right, what's next?
Some support from Hunter Hammond.
Thank you, Hunter.
And then Isaac says, thoughts on Jesse Buckley in Hamnet and in general, Men, Fargo Season 4, Oscar nom, The Lost Daughter, Women Talking, Chernobyl. Oh, he was in Chernobyl? Best Actress Frontrunner. Or...
if we're talking about the one who played Anne.
Yeah, she was, yeah.
She was great. She was really good. Do you know what her actual name was? Shakespeare's actual wife's name was?
Oh, no.
Anne Hathaway.
Oh.
It's her real name. That was her real name. Anne Hathaway.
Plus,
Anyway.
wasn't that also the name of one of Henry VIII's wives, too?
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. Anyway, I don't know that she's the front runner to win, but I do know this. She made an impression. Her performance was insanely good in that. And Paul Mescal, by the way, who I'm going to be honest with you, I was starting to get on the Paul Mescal's a little overrated as an actor train till I saw Hamnet. They're like, no, he's got it. He's got it. He's got the juice. He's just got to be in the right role for it, but he's brilliant in that. And she's really good in it as well.
Oh, no, I was thinking of Jane Seymour, who's also an actress.
Oh, okay.
Jane Seymour was a wife of Henry VIII.
I did. I was
because I knew there was an actress that was also.
I just took your word for it.
Yeah, because I knew there was an actress that also shared the name of one of his wives.
All right, what's next?
X-Men Superfan says, do you think Come What May is the best song in Moulin Rouge, either the original scene or I love the reprisal. Or do you think Elephant Medley was I think to me,
Elephant Medley,
it's more fun for sure, but emotionally impactful. I think Come What May is more emotionally.
I will love you until my dying day. It's a great moment, but I'll still go with the Elephant Medley.
The audience had the most fun with that for sure.
One more night. It's just that medley is so good and powerful, and it was the one that I went, oh, like wow, Ewan McGregor can actually sing. I just love that Elephant Medley. It's a magical part of the movie. It gets emotional and it's moving. I love it. So I'll go with the Elephant Medley on that.
All right,
good question though.
Yeah, I got Raymond Verrado who says, is it true Tom Cruise didn't push through with his space movie because he would have to ask Trump permission to film with NASA and the ISS?
I don't think so. I think by the way, as far as I understand, that movie is still, they want to get that done. My understanding, which could be completely inaccurate and false, so I'm just giving that asterisk there. My understanding that I have is that it's a budget issue. Because after what's gone on with the last couple of Mission Impossible movies, this belief that just because of Top Gun, any Tom Cruise movie now will be $1.5 billion. That's crashed down to reality. And so I think it's becoming a budget issue now, but anyway, who knows? We'll find out.
Ibsy, I truly believe we got the best version of T'Challa in Civil War and the best version of Thor in Infinity War. Common theme here is Russo's work. I think the best version of him of T'Challa was Black Panther 1.
Yeah. I think easily. I mean, it's a subjective question.
Sure.
You're not wrong.
No.
But I, and obviously Jonathan, believe that the best version of him was Black Panther. It was Civil War was a great introduction.
Yeah.
It was a great introduction, but it was very surface. It's once we got into Black Panther that really became his role, and we got a lot. And you know what? Infinity War, because that's the one where we got the speech about then what else do I have to lose? Which I think is the single best acted moment in all of the MCU. When Thor's talking to Rocket.
Yeah.
And he's going on about everything that he's lost. And then what if you're wrong? Well, then what else do I have to lose? I mean, it was so powerful, so good. All right, what's next?
Tiger Zord says, do you think movie theaters will go to a more event-focused model since folks are conditioned to stream non-blockbusters?
Well, no, I mean, for many, many years, theaters have been doing events. If you're talking about, like, for instance, the local AMC that I lived by they would show NFL games on Sundays. There are some theaters that do UFC and all that kind of stuff. So that's true. But the goal here is, as more people are starting to come back to the theaters, and again, as we talked a little bit earlier in the show, they're projecting even bigger next year, biggest since the pandemic started, that creates trickle down patronage, right? Like, you go to the movies, you have a good time, you are more likely to come back to the movies. So that's what they're kind of hoping will happen. And then hopefully that will also trickle down to the mid-sized movies, the smaller movies. We'll see. All right, what's next?
Sinus Punk Rock asks, are there comic book recommendations to prep for Doomsday?
I mean, the Secret War storyline, but again, here's the thing. You could have gone back and read Civil War to prep for Marvel's Civil War, but they take so many liberties and it's really a different story. So I don't think you need to. I honestly don't. I mean, if you want to find the more modern Secret Wars storyline, that will probably be a decent primer. But the Russos, as they always do, and as Kevin Feige does, they're going to take a lot of liberties. It's going to be a different story. So I honestly don't think there's any prerequisite reading you need to do to go into it. Well, we'll see once we actually see it, though. All right, what's next?
X-Men says, do you think Marion Cotillard really conveyed the idea of a shadow of a woman in Inception? Because it seems a very complex idea.
It all depends on what you mean by that. I don't really know.
Like she was just a figment of his imagination?
Yeah. Here's the thing. X-Men superfan, who, first of all, is an MVP, like constantly giving people channel memberships to our channels is great. But you sometimes ask questions as if we just had a half-hour conversation about it and then tag it. And I'm not really sure what it is specifically you're asking. So I can't really answer that one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's next?
Screen Speak says, John, when do you think we will get a new trailer for the Marvel or for Marvel's Wonder Man?
I have no idea.
Do we even need one? I mean, it's just Disney Plus.
Here's the thing. I don't know. And more damningly, I don't care. Like, that first trailer, first of all, listen, you got Yahya Abdul-Mateen and you got Sir Ben Kingsley. Like, I should be foaming at the mouth for this show. But if I'm being honest with you, that first trailer could not have made me more disinterested. Like, look, the show may end up being fantastic. It might end up being my favorite of the MCU. I hope it is. With Yahya Abdul-Mateen and Sir Ben Kingsley, I hope it is. But so far, I've got almost zero interest in this show. So hopefully they'll do something that'll respark it a little bit. All right, what's next?
Jacob Galbo says, John V, Baldur's Gate is 25% off right now on stream Avatar Day. Finally, that Baldur's Gate has never gone on sale. So I guess now I wonder if people are doing the 33 game now, and that's why.
Yeah, I mean, I can't show you a screenshot of my desktop, but prominently right here is my click over to Baldur's Gate 3. So I don't have to buy it because I already got it. But yeah, it's been normally at this point in this life cycle, these games have been on sale for a long, long time.
And not Baldur's Gate.
But now finally on sale.
Cracking the dam.
All right. By the way, if you've not played Baldur's Gate, play Baldur's Gate 3. It is. I think it's probably the best video game ever made, but that's just me.
We got Derek Woodrin with a $20 super chat.
Thank you, Derek.
Hey, John and crew, today's my birthday and game day. I never care to celebrate except Avatar and Star Wars typically come out around them. Love everything you guys do and drive safe back to Canada.
Thank you so much for that. And you're right. This is the time of year right around your birthday is when Avatar and Star Wars films come out. So that's usually, and at least you got one of them this year. Yeah. Happy birthday to you, man. Thank you so much for supporting us on that level. And yes, tomorrow I leave. As soon as Rob and I, by the way, this is a good time to announce that tomorrow's John Campea Show, we normally now start, our new start time is 12 noon LA time. So that's 3 p.m. East Coast time. But tomorrow, and only for tomorrow, we're starting the show 2 hours early. We're going to do it at 10 a.m. Los Angeles time, 1 p.m. East Coast time. The reason for that early start of the show tomorrow is because I need to hit the road. Once we're done the show, I am getting in Colossus, getting in the van, and starting the drive. I've got a few stops planned along the way, but starting the drive up to Canada to spend Christmas with my family. So early start time on the show tomorrow. Thank you for reminding me that I needed to announce that to people. All right, what's next?
Tiger Zord says, do you think they will ever reboot Star Wars?
Yeah. Not for a long time. Yeah. But someday, whenever you ask the word could or ever, the answer is always yes. And that is, or certainly true Star Wars. Again, don't expect it in the next 5, 10, 15 years, but eventually, yeah. All right, what's next?
X-Men says, who had the best Bond song of Sheena Easton, Adele, or so Sheena Easton did For Your Eyes Only.
Yep.
Adele
For
did
Your Eyes Only.
Skyfall.
Skyfall.
She has a great voice, but I felt like Skyfall was a throwback to the classic. So I'm going to go with that list, Adele.
I got to agree with you.
But my all-time favorite is still
Duran Duran, View to a Kill.
Okay, so that's yours?
No.
Oh, no, mine is actually Nobody Does It Better. Ooh, Nobody does it better. That's my favorite Bond
I gotta
song.
say the Adele one, because the song itself oozes Bond.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Like it just when I hear that music, I feel like I'm seeing a James Bond movie in my head.
Yep.
Like it epitomizes Bond. The feel of it is so perfect for it. There have been great songs. For James Bond, even the recent, what's her name? The recent one, the girl who sings "I'm the Bad Guy."
Yeah, I forget who.
What's
sang
that? What's that singer's name again? What's that girl's name? I'm the bad guy. Billie Eilish. Even Billie Eilish's new one is really good, but again, that Adele song to me just epitomizes Bond. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna go with the Adele one.
All right.
What's next?
We got like 5 more here. Lone Wolf says y'all have to mention the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy in that convo. Oh, we didn't even think about that.
You know what? You're not wrong.
Nope.
Not as celebrated, not as big, but quality-wise, every single one of those ones was a banger. Now, even it's not the best trilogy, even just an animated trilogy. The Toy Story one's still like, look, you're going to be hard pressed to find much bigger fans of the How to Train Your Dragon films than me, but the Toy Story one, I mean, that easily the best animated one. But I'll tell you what, you're right. The How to Train Your Dragon trilogy does not get enough mentions in these conversations, and you're absolutely right that it should. All right, what's next?
Earthling Entertainment. Unpopular opinion. The 93 Super Mario Brothers movie is the greatest cinematic achievement of that generation. What's your unpopular opinion? But is that really your unpopular opinion, or just like you made it up?
Because that movie's just like, even John Leguizamo talks about that, and like it's like that was real. And listen, that movie was so bad, it kept Nintendo out of letting their stuff get turned into movies for decades. That's how bad that thing was. All right, what's next?
Superwash says, JC, appreciate your show. Have you heard about the test screenings for Supergirl? I never believe these, but
don't believe those at all.
A scooper named Cryptic says the reactions were okay. I already want to shoot myself. A scooper named Cryptic says the reactions were mid.
Listen,
come on.
Please never burden me with these. Somebody on Reddit. Yeah, no, they're never real. Unless it comes from, the actual actor, director, studio itself.
I couldn't even read the rest of that.
Never believe those. I don't care how great they say the movie is. I don't care how bad they say the movie is. Never believe that nonsense. Anyway. All right, what's next?
We got X-Men Superfan who says, what's more important for you in a Wonder Woman, a tall and imposing Wonder Woman, or one that can capture her compassionate and loving nature?
Amazonian. Yeah. I think that's your first building block. Don't get me wrong. She doesn't have to be 6'4" and like 205 pounds. I'm not saying that, but you first got to communicate. This is, a princess of Themyscira. This is an Amazonian warrior. You can add on all the other elements later on. Personally, one of my favorite iterations of Wonder Woman is the one that we got in Injustice Gods Among Us. Not the villainous side, but the hard edge side. But still, you have to start with that. You can build the other elements there later too, but I think you really got to capture that Amazonian feel. Again, not that she has to be 6'1", none of that, but convince me this is a warrior Themyscira first, and then add whatever you want after that.
All right,
what's next?
Last up, Jay Gabriel. Hey, going back to the trilogy conversation, if the next Spider-Verse movie is on par or better than the first two, where would you think that would rank? Pretty high. Pretty high.
It ends the conversation about what takes that fifth spot. It ends the conversation. Because listen, I think those, and you may not agree with me, and that's totally cool. My opinion is no more or less valid than yours. But those first two Spider-Verse movies are not just the definitive two best Spider-Man movies ever made. All due respect to Sam Raimi, all due respect to John Watts. But as Rob pointed out the other day, they're two of the best comic book movies ever made. And if they put out a third one that is on par, and that's a big if, but for the sake of the discussion, if they put out a third one and it's on par with those first two, that to me, that ends the discussion. Then we've got our top 5 rounded out. In no particular order, it has its place up there. I would put it above Avatar. I would put it above a lot of the other things we talked about. I mean, then you're talking about Godfather, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. What did we say? Toy Story. And then I think you got to put in, I think Spider-Verse would have to be the next one in. Again, that's if they manage to accomplish the gargantuan task of making it on par with the first two. But if they do, yeah, it's in there. By the way, somebody, Sapphire just brought up, what if Dune is on? What if Dune 3 is on par with the other two?
Yeah.
Now we're getting into a bunch of what ifs on movies that haven't happened yet. But it's always going to be a fun discussion.
Oh yeah.
And all right, guys, that'll wrap it up for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. By the way, guys, keep your eyes open on the channel a little bit later today because, again, I'm going to go see Avatar in 2 hours, and I'll be doing my out-of-theater reaction to it once I finally get a chance to see it, so keep your eyes open for that. And, of course, we will see you again tomorrow at an early start time for tomorrow's installment of the John Campea Show. Big thanks, of course, to Robert Meyer Burnett, to our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys later.
Big thanks to all of you guys who sent in questions for supporting the show and giving us fun things to talk about. My name's John Campea, guys, and until tomorrow, bye-bye.